Just a second.
Okay, I understand.
Okay.
Recording.
So good afternoon, dear Poland Forum members, Professor Judy Baumann-Schwartz, Director of the Arnold and Leona Finkler Institute of Holocaust Research. Dear friends, today is our third meeting for this year. The next meeting will be on June 6th, and on June it will be the last meeting for this academic year. I will send you more details about, of course, our last meeting on June. In this opportunity, I would like to thank all the members who are active in our forum. It is not obvious when all of us are so busy. We appreciate your efforts very much. Special thanks to the members who sent their articles to the forum book. There are only a few that's still in process, but soon all will be finished. I am sure that our book will be very interesting and unique. And for this, after Judy will say some words, I'm sure you have what to say. Before I will introduce our lecture, I would like to invite Judy, Professor Schwartz, Baumann-Schwartz, to deliver some words, please.
Thank you very, very much, Leah. I am so thrilled to be here and to see everybody who is attending. And I'm sure that the people who were not able to attend will be watching the recording. So I thank you all for being active members of our Poland Forum. Before we go to hear what sounds like a fabulously interesting lecture, I mean, who thinks about talking about divorces in a ghetto? And what Ewa is doing for us here is she is giving us a spotlight on something that we never would have thought of otherwise, and that only she could show us because of her constant work that she has done on the Chronicle of the Lodz Ghetto and everything that has to do with it. I'd like to say 2 words about our book, just to remind everybody. As Leah said, we have almost all the articles, and reading those which we have already received and sent some of them already off to editing, they are fascinating. You have all done such a wonderful job in bringing your topics to light. And if there is anybody who has still not given us their article, and there are 1 or 2, please finish it up as soon as possible so that we can get moving with this book. I truly hope that we will be able to keep to schedule. And once again, I know that you are all so busy and that it's difficult for everybody to do it, and know how much I personally appreciate everything that you are doing to make this work. And now, besides everything else, I have to give tremendous thanks to our forum coordinator, to Dr. Leah Ganor, who, without her, this forum would not exist. She is the one who came up with the idea. She is the one who put it together. She has already now for several years put together this very, very important research discussion that we have every few weeks. This is the only way that an international forum can work. If everybody is sitting in one country, so eventually you get together. But we have scholars in the Poland Forum from 6 different countries. Now, it would be wonderful if we could all get together, but right now that's not possible. So that's what Zoom is for. And the idea of having these Zoom meetings was hers, and all of the work that goes on with them is hers. And I thank you very, very much for being so central in making this, I would say, the most active forum that we have in the Arnold and Leona Finkler Institute for Holocaust Research at Bar-Ilan University. So thank you again very much. I give you back the microphone, the floor, and please introduce our wonderful speaker. And I can't wait to hear the lecture.
Thank you very much, Judy. You are my inspiration. So before I would introduce, of course, the lecturer. I would like to congratulate Dr. Rivka Schiller for her fascinating PhD. And I'm sure, Rivka, that all the knowledge you have, you will share with us in the next year, or whatever you like to share it with us, because I heard that it was really special and fascinating. So congratulations. Really, thank you. The subject of our lecture today is divorces in the held by Dr. Ewa Wiatr, research at the University of Łódź. She specializes in the history of the Jews of Central Poland, the history of national minorities in the region, and the history of the Lodz Ghetto. She is among the editors of the Chronicle of the Lodz Ghetto, 5 volumes, Polish version, and is a member of the team that edited the Encyclopedia of the Ghetto. The unfinished project of Lodz Ghetto archivist, along with Adam Citrick, and has edited a number of volumes having to do with the history of the Jews in Łódź before, during, and after the Second World War. Ewa will lecture also next week in Haifa University. And now we are looking forward for your lecture, Ewa, and thank you for sharing with us this subject. The floor is yours, please.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me properly?
Yes.
Yes, okay, so I will start. Sorry for my voice, as I mentioned before, it seems that I am also an allergic, like all around. And this is not good period for the allergist people, spring.
Every place. Here in Israel, I'm going through the same thing. Exactly.
Exactly. The pine pollen, yes. All over. I would like to tell you about divorces in the Łódź Ghetto. However, I must admit at the beginning that I changed a little bit the topic, and I focus mainly on legal phenomenon because the material appeared too huge to present in a quite understandable way. If you would be interested, I would be very pleased to share another meeting with you and to tell more about this social part of these divorces. I was also hoping that maybe Michal Unger would be with us today. I invited her to be. And she recently published a very interesting article about divorces and separation and Łódź and Warsaw Ghetto. So I thought that maybe I will not cover her discoveries, which are very easy to read in the article, but focus on something what is more unique. And frankly speaking, I have a feeling that that might be the first time I will tell you about very interesting and uniqueness phenomena like divorces in Łódź Ghetto. Maybe one remark at the beginning. What is always in my mind talking about the ghetto, that we should remember about many organizations, institutions, initiations attempted to the ghetto in order to help people to survive. These are the quite well recognized by historians surviving strategies. This is like the civil fight with circumstances. However, I would like to mention you one word which can explain you the uniqueness of the topic I would like to tell you about. It is modernity. So the solutions which are quite modern in terms of the circumstances. Like always in such a speeches, I would like to at least give you a basic understanding of what was the ghetto. I'm ashamed to show it, so just a very short slide. If you would like to, you can make a print screen, whatever. That's only for the general information. And maybe more, let's focus more on this slide, that we should remember about the very specific administration conditions which were implemented in the ghetto. Generally speaking, the German left the organization of the life in the ghetto in Jewish hands. German demanded peace, order, and increasing productivity. Didn't care how Jews administration obtain this aim. So there was a need to maintain the service, the order service, so-called the police, further the prison and the court. They implemented a registry office to keep vital records. There was implemented rabbinical college within the Jewish administration. I am marking these especially as it would be necessary to understand my further speech. So rabbinical college was included in the Jewish administration, was paid by Jewish administration. It was important in terms of giving weddings. From one moment, weddings were forbidden in private. So privately, rabbis couldn't officially give the wedding, only within this rabbinical college. There was also a court implemented, as normal civil court. What is, as the testimony says, the Germans agreed to arrange Jewish court, even to write their own code system, if the Jewish lawyers would do it within 72 hours. And indeed, the German lawyers managed to do it. They relied primarily on the solutions of the pre-war Polish law, adapting them to the conditions of the ghetto. Court hearings in the ghetto, as you see on the pictures, in a special hall with Rumkowski on the wall. The judges got a special hat on the as you see. This is the head of the court, Stanisław Jakobson. Another picture showing the court, and another one. Court hearings were held, and Rumkowski assured that no one should have trouble in dealing with the court since Yiddish was in force. However, this has not happened. Verdicts were written in German, pleadings also in Polish. Sometimes there were applications in Yiddish only. Talking about the court, keep the court in your mind because we will need it later. A few words about historical context of divorces in general, coming to the pre-war time. It's not very important maybe, but well, we should know that in Łódź there was no divorces within the Jewish community were quite popular. It wasn't forbidden from the religious point of view, so it was granted by a rabbi after a due process. I again recommend you the article of Michal Unger, in which she describes it very detailedly. However, there was no possibility to get the civil divorce because there was no legal system of divorcing. Not probably, but for sure, it was the resistance from the Catholic Church. Catholic Church did not agree for divorces at all. So those couples who had property to divide, custody of children, alimony, turned to the courts for legal settlements, but that was not exactly the divorce, rather dividing material things. We don't know exactly how many divorces have been done by rabbis before the war because there was no registration of these divorces. We could only make some statistical assessment, but will not get deeper into this problem. So let's now come back to the ghetto period, to the ghetto time. The first, again, I am underlining that I will focus only on these divorces which have been somehow registered in the papers. So I divided the divorce issues, let's say, into 3 phases. First one is very short one, only 2 months. As a matter of fact, only 8 divorces, only 8 meetings. The first divorce had a date November 5th, and there was a committee consisting of 2 rabbis and the registrar. So it looks that the Jewish administration wanted to put together the religious part of the divorce already with the statistical vital record. So the divorce would be automatically put into the statistical into the statistical and civic records. That's the picture of the documents of the first divorce issue on the 5th of November 1940. You can see the protocol of the meeting. So in the protocol, it is in Polish in this case. In the protocol, there is a statement of wife and the husband, the decision which was taken, the signature of the two rabbis by Henryk Neftalink, who was the head of the civil record office, and the decision also signed by the rabbi. The committee agreed to give the divorce, and the rabbi finished the divorce in religious terms, so gave a get probably, yes? So it was still a very religious procedure. The things changed quite significantly on January 10th, 1941, where they established the divorce college, Collegium Rabbiniczne. It consisted of 2 or 3 assessors, rabbis, a lawyer, and the secretary. So again, we have a mixed structure of it, religious part and civil part. So the divorce still got a religious character. However, it was under the control and under the control the clerks from the office, from the Jewish community, from the Jewish administration, and from this Vital Statistical Record Office. What also was quite interesting that at the trial, the parties were allowed to appear with counsel. So it was more like court atmosphere a little bit. Pleadings, as I will show you in a moment, letters sent explaining why why the marriage is over and why wife or woman would like to finish it, were written by the spouses or by the attorneys or by the pleading offices which operated legally in the ghetto. We must remember that each official pleading letter or written by attorney or in the office, pleading office, was paid, so not everyone could afford it. So that one is very primitive letter. You probably cannot read it, or Agnieszka Haska as a Polish could read it, but this is really very bad Polish, very bad handwriting, showing that very not well-educated pair would like to get a divorce and asks. What is interesting that it asks already to the Collegium Rozwodowe, so they already knew not that they should address it not to the rabbi, but to the collegium, to the rabbinical college. And on the other hand, you've got a very well-prepared request asking to dissolve our marriage because, and the reasons explain it in the letter. Here, another example of a letter, handwriting quite well prepared. Coming again, more information about the second phase of divorces. Of course, the process of the divorce has become much longer because there are additional conditions such as need to provide birth certificate for children. If they did not have, they had to be obtained again. Parents need to pay fee for birth certificate. There were interviews with neighbors, whether the marriage is fighting in the house, what are the conditions, what are the poverty, and so long. So the process of divorcing took not 1 week, but sometimes a few months. The last word was again in hands of rabbi. So the commission decided whether they should agree to divorce people or to start some kind of negotiation between the pair, or to supply or to guarantee the new house, for example, which was almost impossible, but there were different sentences of such meetings. But the last part was still in religious course. So there was a religious divorce, although it had an official preparation. Some example, this is one of the first trial, let's say trial, I shouldn't say word trial again, but as you see, this is the 4th of February 1941, the first meeting, and fortunately on the same day the issue was finished and the divorce was agreed. It was the trial between David Hershberg and Mindla Early. Here, the second example, you can see that the process started on the May 8th and conducted till June the 3rd. A few examples how the protocol looks like. So there was always two rabbiner, Rabbi Weiss, Rabbi Silman. There was a lawyer, in this moment, Merlander, and the secretary Volkovich. They were describing the case. And then that's the final proof that on January, that the rabbi gave the divorce. Some statistical information, just a second. What you see in the printing version, it's a page of a statistical book which was prepared in the ghetto with very, very interesting data. I am using them very often. And that's exactly the output, the numbers connected with Referat-Scheidungskollegium. It means divorced college. So as you see, in the period from June 13, 1941, there were 92 divorces, 50 conclusions, 31 separation, 3 rejection, 1 by reconciliation, and 10 by discontinuation. In many cases, in this discontinuation, especially in the 1942, in January, February, March, April, well, I could talk about it many hours about the cases. Each case was very moving almost, because we can see the case that pair was in the process of divorcing, and the last meeting was canceled because the pair was deported meantime. But as I mentioned before, if you would like to hear me about the social phases of these divorces, I am ready to talk about it hours and hours. So now we have a gap between two kinds of system in divorcing, which is marked by September 1942 great action called Szpera. Only a few words of explanation. Szpera was a very brutal deportation which covered children and elderly from the ghetto. Almost 20,000 people have been deported to the death camp in Chełmno am Ner. They were all killed. Szpera changed the ghetto, changed their life there. Despite, however, the enormous drama that affected every family, the ghetto continued life, so the life come back somehow. Also, what is quite interesting, and this is not the moment to discuss it, frankly speaking, I don't know what is the answer why it happened, but rabbis have been deported, despite it wasn't the reason they were too old or too young, especially too young, not up to 10 years old, of course. Whether it was the decision of German or Rumkowski wanted to get rid of some people who were nuisance for them, we don't know. It's not the moment to discuss it, but rabbinical college has been canceled. There were few rabbis, but not acting legally, let's say, like Rabbi Rosenmutter or Rabbi Domb, who was just taken out of the deportation track. There was also a problem, of course, with weddings. So, as the chronicle describes, the president, after deliberations with those competent in this field, decides to take on the role of priest and allow newlyweds to contract legal in the sense of the Mosaic religion marriages. So Rumkowski became a person performing the wedding in the presence of registrar who immediately wrote out the marriage certificate. So that's only the picture of Rumkowski giving the weddings in the ghetto. And we are now into the third phase, the civil divorce. So remember, we are after the first phase. First of all, first very short phase where the divorce was taken by the rabbis with the presence of one clerk. Then we have the legal divorce college with 2 or 3 rabbis, a lawyer, and the secretary. And now we are coming into the third phase, the civil divorce. On January 10th, 1943, that's the date of implementing a new system, civil divorce. Rules, that's how it looks like, was signed by Stanisław Jakobson, the head of the court. The civil division of the court became the body responsible for divorces. To deliver a divorce, a panel of assembled in the following person. There was chairman, 2 judges, prosecutor representing the party or parties, and defender of matrimonium with the right of the lead-lined party. That's especially the last. So again, that's how the rules about the civil, about the divorces, separation, and treating the ritual marriages has been written down in January 1943 and implemented under the cover of civil division of the Jewish court. Remember that the meetings should have chairman, 2 judges, prosecutor, and the defender of the matrimonium with the right of the party. That's something absolutely unique. I must say that I was looking for information about this function quite long, reading some very clever books, and I found such a function in the church divorce law. And what is interesting, that this function was only in hands of one person, Regina Rumkowski, so the wife of Chaim Mordechai Rumkowski. So he performed weddings and she defended the marriage. What we also can see on these pictures, the documentation changed its view, their view. It's the stamp of the court, Gericht. There is a sentence. All necessary information must be put together in one file. The divorces took quite different character. Trials, I can say trials already, yes. Trials lasted much longer. The preserved documentation shows step by step the stages. So there were filing lawsuits, there were hearings, there were completing materials. Witnesses were called to the court. There were interviews. Police, the Jewish service Jewish police were visiting houses, asking neighbors. There were conciliation interviews. And of course, again, each copy, each document, you must pay fee, pay fee, pay fee, pay fee. So it's all over the same. Some statistical information, not covering all the period, because we have only that data to November 1942. There were 102 divorce issues, but only 25 cases were completed. 60 divorces was decreed, and 9 were rejected. I am in the middle of making some further research to count all the divorces which were done in this third period. Fortunately, most of the documents could be searched already online. Most of them are in the Jewish State Archive. Some single files have been taken to Ewa. I've seen one in Yad Vashem. So unfortunately, like always in this document archive, in this archive connected with the Lodz Ghetto, the materials are all over the world. So I don't know why I was rushing so much that I finished my presentation, but I would like to maybe just tell you just small about the what has changed in this last phase. So Rumkowska was trying to stop the divorce. What is quite obvious from the document, that she was trying to negotiate with marriages, to make agreement between man and wife. It's also the very significant what we can see after in 1944, that the number of the divorces just is getting down, so it's decreasing. This is connected, of course, with the circumstances in the ghetto. There were less and less people who were poor and frustrated. Many people were already alone because of the death of one of the second part. So it's still a very interesting case to make a very deep research on the social issue of the divorces. I don't know why I was so rushing. So frankly speaking, I finished my presentation. So if you would like to discuss it with me, I would be very pleased.
Before we finish, we ask questions. Maybe Eva, you have some examples about the reasons why they wanted to divorce?
Yes, sure.
This is, I think, can lead us to discussions. I have a question, if it's okay.
Yes. So,
did you analyze that?
Yes, I did.
Yes, did you analyze some of the cases were cases that they started before the war, or most of the cases are from the time of the war?
There were, well, first, my first remark, talking about these divorces, we are still talking about dozens of issues. It's not 1,000. I wonder And the problem is that we cannot recall to the statistical before the war because we don't know exactly how many divorces there was before the war. So we don't know if there is 100 divorces in the ghetto, it means it is a lot or not a lot.
No,
so that's the first problem.
But maybe they started the process to divorce before the war? There were cases like this?
Only if in a few cases, there was such a situation that the pair was, for example, in separation before the war.
Okay.
A few examples. One pair was in separation before the war. In the ghetto, a man wanted to marry again, but in that case, he needed to have a divorce. Different case. A pair was already after a divorce in terms of pre-war meaning, so they get a get from the rabbi. However, when he wanted to, in the ghetto, legalize the divorce, wife said, no, because you did not pay me what you needed to pay according to the result of rabbi court. So the divorce was again renewed, let's say. In many cases, the divorces, and that's something what is quite interesting, it was a very fresh marriages. So they got married, let's say, November 90, just after the war outbreak, September 1939, November 1939, the beginning of the ghetto time. So they got married, maybe there was a love, whatever, or the arranged marriage, whatever, but the circumstances in the ghetto was too difficult, too tough to get along with. So they started to fight. There are very moving description on both sides. I must say, it would be too, well, I am still not ready to generalize whether it is typical that many women ask for a divorce because of the very, let's say, women circumstances, which is quite unique because women in the ghetto need to go to work, need to take care of children. And in many cases, husband was not helping at all. So he was stealing food. He was, for example, not working or working only for himself, eating what he earned and not sharing with children. So there were also, as an example of divorces with requests written by a woman, I do not need such a husband who is not helping me at all. I would be more safety if I take care of children of myself. I only ask the court or the collegium to get rid of the husband from my house. However, on the other hand, there is also examples of men claiming on a wife, she is dirty, she's not doing anything, she's not cooking, she's not taking care of children, she's only laying in a bed and I must take care of her. So it's not necessary for me to have a wife. So it would be too, I would avoid generalizing in terms of, let's say, gender point of view still. I'm really in the middle of the huge research on the topic, but I also am going to make a kind of statistical, only on the basis of these registered divorces of some, because you can see sometimes, in many cases in the documents, there's information who was the first who started the process of divorcing, him or her. But up to now, I see it's quite equal. It's not, but still, again, what was before the war? Who was more often ask for a divorce, men or women? We have no base to check it, yes? There was also a huge rumor in the ghetto because just after the deportation to the ghetto, the Jews from Western Europe, from Western Europe, let's say, from London, from Köln, Berlin, Prague, Vienna, these people couldn't get married where they lived. So just after the arriving to the ghetto, there was a huge there were at once 20 or 12 weddings, for example. And these people very shortly got divorces because living in the circumstances were too harsh for them, too tough. They cannot stay together. However, there was also, it's very easy to see the connection between education and the way of divorcing. There is a trial, the papers of the engineer Davidovich, who was already in separation with her wife before the war. Now he wanted to finish it. She was a doctor, as the daughter of a very prominent doctor. So he agreed to do everything to get a divorce, promised to help her, promised to take care of the child, promised to pay for her furniture, so on, so long. But that's not very typical. Most of the trials shows poverty of people. They were fighting for a chair. They were fighting for, of course, for the food. In many, well, as you can imagine, the crime issues were quite problematic in the ghetto. Crime means that someone has stolen one potato, for example. But during the deportation in the first half a year of 1942, people who were sentenced by the court because of the crime of stealing one potato were on the first list for deportation. So there were at least few requests from women asking to divorce very quickly because I don't want to be deported with the husband. It was very cruel. Not only the person who was sentenced was taken to the deportation, but his whole family. So the woman wanted to stay and was hoping if she got a divorce, she will stay in the ghetto and not be deported. Listen, we still have 1/4, and I will be pleased to share some questions with you. Believe me, this is I am maybe too emotional, but this topic is so much inside of me, especially this legal aspects, because I think that this is the first example of the civil divorces in the Jewish history. Let me correct me if I'm wrong.
The floor is for all of you. Please, wow, it's a fascinating and very emotional topic. Yes, I understand. So
maybe I'll add a comment if possible.
Yes, Daniel. Yes.
Not a question, but a comment.
Yeah.
First of all, thank you very much, Eva, for your lecture. It was not too short. It was completely fine, and you're completely fine with time. No worries. That's first of all. Second of all, you talked about Mrs. Rumkowska, Weinberger, who
Yes.
said try to bring peace and try to stop, I would say in those words, even in extreme words, every divorce. Now, I don't know if she was brought up traditional. It makes sense because this is a very traditional thing to do. Usually divorce in Judaism is the last stage. Usually also in courts, the rabbis, they try. It's even called in Hebrew, lashkin shalom, to bring peace. And only if they are convinced that there's no option of bringing the couple to this stage of peace, only if they're convinced it's not possible, then they're willing to continue and do the divorce. But so she sounds to me, although I don't know exactly what her background is and how she was brought up, but it sounds to me a very traditional attitude, what she's doing.
As you see this picture with the pearl, that's the picture from the Warsaw University. She was studying law at the University of Warsaw. So she was quite well educated. Before she married Rumkowski, she was also working in a court. So, well, we must see that there was also a kind of good job for her. But it was a job, and it was a very specific position, yes? Not, well, no, her task was to save the marriage.
I understand.
And there are cases that she succeeded, yes?
Yes, yes. Not many, but yes. But remember that, well, we must look on the cases as a process, because we probably more divorces hasn't been finished than it was finished. Mm-hmm. And the ghetto changed, the people resigned from the visiting court because it was connected with money, the fees, always the fees they must pay. It was not much, 50 pounds, pennies, pfennigs, yeah, not, well, the currency in the ghetto, rumki, yes, 1 rumki. So the payment was like half a rumka, half 50 pfennigs. But there were money, unnecessary money, only to get the information that the court is still dealing with my case, for example. Because in the third phase, we must look on this divorces like a typical trial in the court.
Thank you. Yes, questions, comments?
Rivka,
yes, Rivka, yes.
Thank you very much, Ewa. It was really, really interesting. I had a couple of questions. I mean, you mentioned how certainly there were also marriages as well as divorces in the ghetto. I don't know if you've done like a comparative study, like to get a sense of statistics, the rates of marriage versus divorce in the ghetto. And was there also cost involved in getting married? I mean, I don't know what the cost difference might have been for marriage versus divorce. And also, so if the divorce went through, if it succeeded, did that mean that the couple physically separated, they went to different households? I mean, which would be required by Jewish law. But my question is because I assume the housing situation was very difficult in the ghetto. Were they able to separate physically to different households? So those are some of my questions. And then I also had a question. I believe you mentioned a Rabbi Silman who signed one of the gets that you showed us. I'm curious about him because I did research. Maybe it was Ewa Silman. I've done research, not this about a family of rabbis with this name. So if you know anything about this rabbi, I would be curious, like, you know, where was he from? Do you know what happened to him, what his fate was? Yeah, any kind of information would be helpful.
Thank you very much. So starting maybe from the end, with Rabbi Silman. I like this rabbi, you know, for very personal reason. However, you might mix the Silman from the ghetto with the Silman who was from Grabów, and Adam Sitarek wrote an article about him. He was the one who informed about the Chełmno.
Okay.
I can send you later if you just share.
Yes.
I will find your address.
Okay.
But
Okay.
Rabbi Silman is a very important person for me, very. Because when I was trying to look for the author of this 4-language diary, which was written on the margins of the French book, which is in Yad Vashem exhibition, not many names appeared in a diary, only a few. One of it is Rabbi Silman, and the author is writing, when I was with Rabbi Silman looking through the window during the Shpera, how people were deported, we were so scared. I am just calling from my memory, so it was not exact citation, quotation. So I look where Rabbi Silman lived, and next to Rabbi Silman, I found another rabbi's family, Abram Łaski. So that's why I was able to identify the author of this yes, so Abram Yitzhak Łaski, a son of David Łaski, another quite prominent rabbi from the Lodz Ghetto, who, what is also very interesting, wasn't deported during the Shpera, but died in the ghetto in June 1943. So I will try to inform you about this Rabbi Silman. I think that he's somehow connected with Grabów, the family of Rabbi from Grabów, near Chełmno. But that's what I will definitely let you know later. It's not related to the topic. Now, marriages. I will definitely try to compare the statistic between marriages and that's very interesting. Thank you. It's so obvious should be for me, but I think that well, there were thousands of marriages with the second part of the ghetto after the Shpera, where Rumkowski was giving the weddings. Each is recorded. There are thousands of books there. Well, it could be another presentation because it was also the system. There was a announcement 2 times in the synagogue, in the house, whatever. But we must remember that in many cases there were very young people who wanted to be together. Also because there was a gift in one bread for as a wedding gift, for example, yes. Mm-hmm. And there is also within the court issues, you can see the regulation and the special trial for the cases if because there was the regulation implemented in the ghetto described exactly the date of the age of the bribes. So I don't remember now, 21 or whatever. Sorry, I'm probably saying something wrong, but because of the tradition of getting married earlier, there was a way to get the permission from the court to get married earlier. But it needed again the court, and the court checked all the circumstances and was able to give the permission or say, no, you cannot get married yet. So that's also a case, a very small one. Let's keep it in my mind. Again, presentation could be ready. But most of the people were like 21, 22, and also widows, widow or men or women who decided to live together, also to keep the householding together, which could be easier if the pair was quite well, they were in communication. Of course, the costs in terms of marriages also were connected with this official records. So they need to pay for the marriage certificate. If they would like to have copy of it, they need to pay a copy to the civil records. And that was the way to obtain money from people, yes? That's like taxes, for example. So you need to keep the clerks working. The clerks need papers to be done from one office to another office, and poor people need to pay for it. Yes, so it's like a circle. That's my answers.
Thank you very much. We have another 4 minutes. If someone has a question, this is the time to do it before we close our session.
No question, just to thank you, Eva, and tell you that it was fascinating.
Can you please provide Eva's email?
Yes, of course.
Okay,
yes.
thank you.
Yes.
Eva, can I ask?
Yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask a different question about the chronic of the Lodz Ghetto. Is it in Polish or in English?
It's in Hebrew, in Polish.
Oh, in Hebrew.
I mean the published version or the original one?
Actually, the original one. And well, I'll start with the published one, but
okay, so the chronic was written first. You shouldn't ask this question. You shouldn't.
Eva, can we correspond?
Yes, of course, but only shortly. So the first, on the 12th of January 1941, was started in Polish. Then it was, some of them were translated into German. Then from the middle of 1942, they start to be mixed, German and Polish. From 1943 was only German. And a person named Józef Zelkowicz, who was a part of the archivist's team, wrote separately the Yiddish version of it. It is called, no, we couldn't call it chronic because he did it by himself, but on the base of the same information. However, because it was in Yiddish, it was written in more open way. Now it is published in Hebrew.
Not day by day?
Yes, day by day. Unfortunately, the material is in very bad condition, so we couldn't read everything because of the damage of the pages were damaged. And in his huge file with this, let's say, chronicle in Yiddish, there is this famous reportage in those horrible days about the Szpera. So that's a kind of part of the Yiddish chronic. Zelkowicz chronic has been now translated into Polish and published. I can send you PDF if you wish. I can send you, oh, sorry, how many people are here and who can tell me that I am selling the property of others, but I can also share the Polish PDF and the German PDF.
The point is that I'm looking for a very specific event.
Yes.
In Plac Wolności.
It wasn't in the ghetto.
I'm sorry?
It wasn't in the ghetto.
No, but the people were from the ghetto.
The people from the Plac Wolności, yes, they could be in the ghetto. They could see the Plac Wolności, but the Plac Wolności was outside of the ghetto.
I know. But the event happened there. Okay, let me correspond with you because it's a private story.
Yes.
This is my uncle, so.
Okay. So thank you so much, Eva, for sharing with us this one really amazing research. And I'm sure you will have so much to say, and probably we will publish it in the future so we can read everything. And it's only a drop in the ocean.
The Polish version should be very soon. I am working on the English one now.
Great. So really, thank you very much. Thank
you. I
you.
survived this pollution. Ha ha ha.
And soon we'll see you in Israel.
Yes,
Next
welcome in 1 week.
Yes,
Next
and
week.
I hope we will have some chance to meet and to.
Will you be in Haifa? Who else would be in
Yes,
Haifa?
I live not far from Haifa, so I know that there will be 2 days. People from here can, I think it's open to the public to participate in your lecture because it was published in Facebook.
Yes,
So people can participate. Very interesting. Also the topics that will be in the 2 days, I will send in the forum. And I hope that we will have the chance to meet. You will stay in Haifa?
2 nights in Haifa, then I'm staying in Ramat Aviv in my friend's house.
Okay. So, and we wish Chag Shavuot Sameach, all of you. And we will meet in our next meeting. I will send you details and information because our last meeting will be unique. It will be different than all the meeting we had, and I will write you about it.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you, Eva.
Thank you, Eva. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, and
Thank you.
good
Bye.
evening, everyone. Good evening or
Thank
good
you.
morning.
Good
for
morning.
Rivka.
Yeah. Yes.
Great.
Yeah.
Bye.
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 Bye.